The beauty of music, though, is that it attaches itself to your memories and to your life in such a way. So when you know about what the emotional impact is of a certain cadence, or what note hits at the right place on this chord, that is so much more powerful when you really have the ability to recall it or fit it into the spot that you want it to be, versus stumbling on it by accident, which is what I was largely doing in the past.
Right. I've called you before to ask you Van Halen questions because you're a Van Halen expert. And we were just talking before we started filming about Van Halen, and I had showed my son you playing Eruption from 7, 8 years ago live, and you just whipped it off like nothing and played it.
Well,
okay, but before we go into this, because I want to talk about Eddie's playing, because you really have a unique perspective in that, but I want to talk about your guitar, or your dad's guitar.
The one that I have here, yeah.
Yes.
So this guitar is unique in my dad's history because he must have really loved this guitar because it went through so many different iterations. So there's no other guitar that he had that transformed so many times. So originally, this guitar, it looked more like this color, but it now has this pickguard on it because at a certain point around 1976, I think, the now defunct TWA modified the guitar without my dad's permission. So it had a big crack in it. And so he ended up putting this mirrored pickguard on it, and he changed the electronics at that time. But that just goes to show that he was willing to make it become whatever he wanted it to be at the time. But it started its life as an SG Special with 2 P90 pickups. And it had a stop tailpiece, but at a certain point, he put humbuckers in it. It ended up with a vibrola trem on it. He put these switches, which this switch made this one go to single coil, and then this one made it go out of phase between the two.
Okay.
It always had this holly, the blonde holly. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Yeah, so that was a thing. But he played this guitar on Apostrophe, Overnight Sensation, and the Roxy and Elsewhere, and a lot of albums and a lot of tours. I mean, this was his main guitar. And then it got damaged, and he changed it, and it became this. So now it has things in it that it didn't previously have. It used to have just the stock volume and tone for each pickup. But now it has a volume, and it has some filters in it. So you have a preamp, and then you have EQ, and it adds gain and stuff like that. So it's got some heavy-duty electronics in it that his other guitars started to have at a certain point.
We also talked about how your dad used really light strings, and that was influential to me because I always played 8s. I still play 8s.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it a lot, but your dad played 7s?
7s originally.
Okay, how did he get the 7?
It was a thing in the 70s, but he didn't. You couldn't get a set. You had to like
piece one together.
Yeah,
kind of, right?
so he kind of decided which ones he wanted, and then I remember there used to be these cartons that had dividers, and it would be like 7, 9, 11, 12, 13, whatever string gauges. They were these boxes of strings, and so whenever he was changing strings, he was just selecting what he wanted.
Custom sets.
Yeah.
Tell me why he liked the light strings like that. Now, a lot of people don't realize that people played light strings. Eddie Van Halen played 9 through 40 Fender Bullets, and it was common to play light strings back then.
Yeah.
Why did your dad like that extra light?
Well, I think it's really easy to play rhythm guitar.
Yep.
And also, he liked to bend strings, and he didn't want to work that hard.
Right. Like B.B. King would say.
Yeah.
I didn't want to work that hard.
But the thing about it is, people say, oh, well, light strings always going to sound thin.
Not
you
true.
can make it sound good on anything,
Absolutely.
It just really depends. The one thing is you can't use a very heavy pick with a light string because it will make it go more out of tune.
But you have 8s on here, right?
Yes.
What gauge pick do you use?
Right now, this is more like what Van Halen used. It's like super thin. I mean, you can see.
I did not realize that Eddie used picks that thin like that.
Yeah, he used a different shape. I switched to the bigger shape because it was like a little bit easier for me to hold on to for for rhythm. This is kind of
That's like a shape Gambale uses.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good, but it's also good because you have 3 different sides.
Would he always pick like that?
No, a lot of times, but not always, because you see him on certain
sometimes I
rhythm.
see him like that, but when he does his tremolo, I always thought he would use the middle finger.
Yeah, but there's a real big difference when picking like this, because here's a good example. If I play Ain't Talking About Love and I play it normal.
Yep.
Now I'm going to hold it different. The palm muting is totally different. The articulation is totally different. So versus. So it's a huge difference, and it really is like you have more of a plucky motion, and then you have all this extra ability to mute because your hand is in a different spot. So all of that makes a big difference when you're trying to play in a way that sounds like Edward's playing.
Were you asking him, hey, what are you doing there? Or were you just sitting right next to him and just watching?
So yeah, I would ask him stuff, and he would play it, and then he would show me again. And I could barely play, you know. I mean, I'd been playing for less than a year at that point, you know. But I was trying to do little things, and you know, that I heard from the records, and so he would show like how he did the tapping. Now I ended up not doing it exactly the way he did, because you know he would do it where it was like this kind of upward, but I pushed down that way. He plucked and pulled up.
Interesting.
Yeah. So versus. So there's a slight touch difference, but for me, like in terms of my own playing, it was just easier to get the note to ring out if I pulled down versus pull up.